What is up, everybody? We are back for the first Bowman release of the year. It's going to be 2024 Bowman, and it drops on May 8th. So we got exactly a month from today, which is nice because sometimes they really like to wait until the last second to give us a checklist. This product, they were kind enough to give it to us before they started taking our money for pre-orders. So there are a lot of top prospects in this product who are going to have second-year autos. There is a Wyatt Langford, Paul Skeens, Bryce Eldridge, etc. I want to say maybe Matt Shaw too. But for the sake of this video, I'm only going to do rankings for the guys getting their first auto. So let's dive in. We're going to do a little top 20, plus I have a few honorable mentions as well. Starting us off, we've got Emanuel Taha of the New York Yankees at number 20. You'll see he is in A-ball this year. He's 19 years old, 5'11", 158 pounds. Second base / third base / shortstop. His projected tools are going to be 45 hit, 50 game power, 50 raw power, 50 speed, 50 fielding, and a future value of 40. You see the projected scout grades, none of them really wow you. But if you look down at the hitting stats, really good numbers at age 17 and 18. You look at the walk rates, 21.8% in the DSL and 20.3% in the complex sleeve. He's hit for average. He's hit for power. He's been stealing bases, 24 last year on 30 attempts. He's just really productive. He's kind of in the same boat as a Yankee that I did from 2023 Bowman Chrome in Kiner Delgado, in that you aren't going to find him ranked highly on many lists. You're not going to see him ranked very high on a lot of Yankees top prospect lists. You're not going to see many dynasty rankers have him in the top 300. But with how productive he's been for the age, I think that he deserves a little more credit than he's been getting. Again, he carries the Yankees premium, so I don't know how high his cards will be priced, but because he's not a highly ranked prospect, he's someone who could definitely be a little under the radar, kind of how Kiner Delgado was, because we know Brando Maella was the main Yankees chase in that product. The Yankees have quite a few more chases ahead of Tejeda, so he's someone that maybe you buy the Yankees, you get him on accident, or you buy him from people who were chasing other Yankees in the product and don't want to hold him. Either way, I think he's just too productive for his age that I think he deserves a little bit more credit than he gets. 19, I'm going Bryce Matthews, who's the Astros first-round pick. He was 28th overall out of Nebraska. Got a $2.5 million signing bonus. I do suspect that most people are going to be higher than me on Matthews, and I won't be surprised if on release his autos are closer to like the top 15 range. He's just not the type of player I usually gravitate towards buying. You look at the scout grades, 35 hit, 50 game power, 60 raw power, 60 speed, 45 fielding, and a 45 future value. You see that 60-60, he's obviously a great athlete. To have 60 raw power, 60 speed, that's kind of like the dream hobby combo. That's why I won't really be surprised if his cards sell. But the 35 hit tool scares me. The swing needs to be cleaned up. He's not a great defender. He struggled at shortstop. He's got a very high ceiling, but if I'm taking a gamble on a guy who's a really good athlete with a questionable hit tool, which a lot of Bowman prospects are, I'm going to take it on someone like Nazan Zanatello of the Red Sox. I like when it's the high schoolers because you get them in the door at 18. They get professional instruction, for 3-4 years to kind of clean up those swing decisions and that hit tool. Matthew's already 22 years old. He was already kind of like a 1-year wonder in college. He didn't really break out until his last year at Nebraska. He went 2020, which, don't get me wrong, that's incredible in college. But he hit a combined 266 his first 2 years in college. I just have too many concerns. The potential's there. Obviously, that power-speed combo, great athlete. But if I'm taking someone with questionable hit tool, I'd prefer it to be an 18-year-old high schooler, not a 22-year-old college grad. So he's someone who I think the ceiling is high, but he's just not exactly the kind of guy that I go for. 18th is Luke Adams of the Milwaukee Brewers. He's a guy who's really under the radar, and he has performed really well his first 2 years after being a 12th round pick out of high school in the 2022 draft. You see he is 6'4", 210 pounds. The projected grades are going to be 45 hit, 55 game power, 60 raw power, 30 speed, 40 fielding with a future value of 40 plus. He stole 30 bases last year, 30 for 40, but as he matures, those are going to come down. As you see, he's projected 30 speed. He's more aggressive than he is fast. I wouldn't get too hung up on those stolen base numbers, although they are impressive. But the calling card is going to be the power as he grows into his, Kobe Mayo-esque frame. He's a big guy. The big question is going to be the hit tool. You see it's projected at 45, but you watch him swing and it's scary. The leg kick is huge. The hands are low. There's a lot going on. Counterpoint, look at the Ks and the walks. The Ks have not been an issue, 22.5% in A-ball, 19.5% in the complex league. You look at the 17.3% walk rate, 17.1%, that's really good. But it's hard to think that upper-level pitching won't expose his funky swing. Or maybe like the aforementioned Kobe Mayo, he tweaks it. Everyone thought Kobe Mayo was going to have swing decision issues, and his hit tool got better than people expected as he went on. So I think it's really easy to look at the 11 home run, 30 stolen base at age 18 and get really excited. I know he popped up on a lot of, OPS lists that I was looking at last year, but you got to remember he's going to lose a lot of that speed. Better pitching might expose that swing. Power is really the only tool that I feel really good about, but it's a fun player to watch and root for, and you hope that he does fix that leg kick or he somehow keeps it and makes it work. But he's someone that just based on how productive he's been for the age and with that power, he definitely deserves a little bit of respect. I haven't seen many people talk about him. Number 17 for me is going to be John Cruz, who will be wearing a Yankees uniform on his card, but he was just traded to the Miami Marlins in the deal where they acquired John Birdie. You see he's 6'3", 171 pounds, does not have scout grades on Fangraphs. He's probably in the realm of a slightly below average hit tool with above average power and above average speed, which is a fun profile for somebody his age. You look at the stats, and really it's last year in the complex that got people talking. 294, he hit 10 home runs and stole 9 bases in just 48 games. You see the K rate was low, 21.8%, a 237 ISO. You can see next to the ISO you have the speed, which is 7.2 and 6.6 in 2 years. So he does move well. The WRC plus is almost identical, 128, 131. Really good. Like really, really good for his age. Most guys, you'd see the stat line and this, power speed combo at this age with his frame, and it would be slam dunk chase for a Bowman product. And it might be, but here's what I'll say is that it might not be entirely fair to him, but he would have been higher for me if he didn't get traded. Yiddy Cap was my final straw in investing in Marlins hitters. I know he's still got time to turn it around, but they're a franchise that's great with pitchers. Their recent track record with hitters is so bad that I've stopped buying them. When you look at their big international signings, their first-round picks, J.J. Bleday, Cleo Watson, Jacob Berry, Jose Salas, go down the line. They haven't been able to develop a hitting prospect since the Yelich, Ozuna, Stanton days. It's been that long. Fingers crossed that John Cruz's talent carries him further, but Miami's kind of like where hitting prospects have gone to die, so I'm kind of afraid to have too much stock in him. Again, it might be unfair to him that the organization he just got traded to, I hate so much, but he does have above average power, above average speed for, an 18-year-old, so I won't be surprised at all if people do chase him. Again, it's not ideal that he's not wearing the uniform of the team he plays for. A lot of people are going to chase the Yankees, and they lost one of their chases right off the bat. But all things considered, I think if you're just someone who looks at the tools and projectability of a player, he's probably someone who's going to be more sought after on release. 16th overall, Abik Ortiz. This is a fun one. 6 foot, 230 pounds, 22 years old. Projected 50 hit, 60 game power, 60 raw power, 20 speed, 50 fielding, 45 future value. He was an undrafted signee. You talk about a great find here. The Rangers signed him for $20,000. One of the funniest things about him is that when I first looked him up, I saw he went to Florida Southwestern College, which is in the city that I grew up in, and I didn't even know they had a baseball team. So that kind of shows you how under the radar he was. This guy has done nothing but hit. 33 home runs between 2 levels last year. You see the crazy WRC plus numbers, 167, 170, 157. The K rates are high 20s, which you expect from a guy his size who swings as hard as he does. But he's still been able to hit for good average. Usually when you would see those 28, 29% K rates, you'd be looking at, 260, 270 max batting average, 307 in A-ball, 290 in high A. He's got a really good feel for the barrel. He's able to reach pitches in all parts of the zones. He really can go to spots that a lot of big power hitters can't go. So while he does strike out a lot, you see the projected 50 hit tool, that's pretty good for someone his size. I do think that he is someone who can hit for average and power, which is a great combo. Really the issue is going to be that he doesn't move well and he isn't good defensively. They've tried him in right field. Realistically, I don't think that he can play anywhere in the MLB other than first base. He's probably a DH, if anything. So really his bat's going to have to carry him all the way. But for an undrafted free agent, he's been great. He's a great bat, and you can't ignore the damage he's done so far in his career. We always say chicks dig the long ball, power sells in the hobby. He is older, but I think he's someone that if you're going off productivity of how good he's been in the minors, he's someone that's definitely worth a look. On to another guy who's signed cheap. 15th, we'll go with one of my favorite sleepers in Raymond Ramirez of the Kansas City Royals. You talk about a guy who came out of nowhere. Ramirez got a $57,000 signing bonus, and then he went nuts in his first season in the DSL. I mean, this is, when we did 23 Chrome, I laughed that Rainer Arias and Joe Andrew Vargas had video game numbers. You look at Raymond Ramirez's 41-game sample in the DSL, 344 batting average, 8 home runs. Look down at the advanced hitting, more walks than strikeouts. You're talking about an 18-year-old kid who signed for $50,000 that is not a top prospect, that was on nobody's radar. 12% K rate at age 18, 1.17 walk to K, 440 OBP, OPS over 1,000, slugged 615, 270 ISO, 168 WRC plus. I mean, these numbers are pretty bananas. The only reason he's not higher is because of the unknown. It's a small sample. It's the Dominican Summer League, which is hard to trust. It's a guy who is not a big-time signing, but man, those numbers are nice. If you see clips, it doesn't look like a fluke. It's a smooth swing. Power's natural. He's raw but athletic behind the plate, so there's hopes that he can stick there. But for a guy who looks like it's an above-average hit and above-average power tool, he's someone that you hardly see anyone talk about. You see a couple real sharp dynasty rankers throw him in the, you see the list like, give us a really sleeper name who could be a top 100 prospect. I've seen a couple people throw his name out, but he's not someone who gets a ton of buzz. I think he's a great sleeper for this product. I think he's a great sleeper for dynasty baseball. You try to take advantage of the fact that he's not on many lists yet, because if he does this again in the complex league this year, or even A-ball or a higher level, you're going to start seeing his name creep up. I think he's a really fun chase. On to another really fun chase. 14th overall is going to be Robert Calaz of the Rockies, who signed for $1.7 million. The disclaimer here is obviously, like I said, with these other guys, with John Cruz and the Marlins, the Rockies haven't developed a prospect in a long time. I love Adele Amador, but their track record has been really, really bad. But we're going to ignore that because Calaz is such a fun profile that I just can't help myself. You see he's 6'2", 202 pounds. He's projected 40 hit, 60 game power, 70 raw power, 20 speed, 35 fielding, and a future value of 35 plus. With many of these young Dominican Summer League guys, one of them's coming up, it's always, well, if they grow into power. Not the case here. The power is there. Fangraphs is very low on his speed, as you see, thinking that he will slow down a ton and be relegated to DH. A lot of people aren't high on his speed or his defense in the long run, which is definitely possible. But for the time being, he moves well for his size. He's been playing center field, but probably shifts to right field. 43 games, you see 7 home runs, 12 doubles, 2 triples at age 17. Went 6 for 6 on stolen bases. You see the speed rating, 7.8. So, yeah, maybe, just like Josue de Paula, a lot of people, as he matures, they expect that speed to drop straight down. But for the time being, he's moving well. He's playing center field. I know he's projected 20 speed, but, I mean, for someone with 70 power, 236 ISO, 155 WRC plus. Again, I don't like to go in on Dominican Summer League stats. They are always hard to trust. But I think he's someone who's super sneaky because people are so split on him. Like I said, Fangraph says he's below average hit, speed, and defense. I've seen others who think he's athletic enough for all of those to be average. And really, I mean, I don't know who's going to be right, who's going to be wrong, but you could be talking about a special player if he's average hit, average speed, average defense with 70 raw power. I think he's a really fun flyer. Again, I don't trust the Rockies, so he's a huge question mark, but for how athletic he is and the frame, all of the notes on his development have been all positive so far, so I'm good with him as a hold. I think the ceiling here is one of the best in the product for a guy in this range. Lastly, in our trio of Dominican Summer League guys, at 13th is going to be Yonathan Cespedes of the Red Sox. Another guy who posted just a silly Dominican stat league line. You see he's 5'9", 181 pounds, projected 60 hit, 40 game power, 40 raw power, 50 speed, 50 field, 40 future value. Like I said with Kalaz, a lot of the reason that I liked him so much was that he's already got that. We know that he has that power. A lot of Dominican Summer Leagues, it's if the power is going to come. Cespedes is one of those is the power going to come type guys. You look at his stats, just crazy low K rate, which isn't surprising as he's billed as one of the more advanced hitters in last year's international class. He struck out in just 11.5% of his appearances. You see 346 average. Here's the thing for me. 6 home runs, 215 ISO, 145 WRC plus. I mean, these are great numbers. When you look at, he'll probably have to move off shortstop and play second because of his size and arm strength. That's a problem for the future. But in 2023 Chrome, I touched on Welbin Francisca of the Guardians, who is similar in that he was a hit first guy that, he had these 40 power projections, and is he ever going to grow into power? I mean, Cespedes has similar grades, but I mean, he came out swinging, and he's got way more pop than I think anyone expected him to. I think he could really shoot up the prospect boards if that's real. Again, 6 home runs and 215 ISO for a 17-year-old is not nothing. It's actually very impressive. If you see, again, he's only 5'9", and he's got kind of like a Howie Kendrick is the body comp that he gets as far as like short and stocky, but someone who knows how to swing it. He didn't run it all. You see the stolen base numbers, 1 for 3. So it's going to have to be hit and power. But if the power that he flashed in the Dominican Summer League is real, this is a fun player to buy because you're talking about a guy who's already got a plus hit tool. He's already been said to be one of the most advanced hitters in this entire international class. The only thing that's holding him down is that 40 power grade. But again, he showed way more than originally anticipated in that almost 200, ABs in the Dominican Summer League. So I think if he's someone who, if he can pair that 60 hit with just like 50 power, if he can get to that point, I think he plays for an organization that has done really well recently with developing prospects. We know that their cards sell well. So he's someone that if he starts hitting for power, I mean, his cards could go nuts. We saw Roman Anthony cards go nuts last year. Not that I think he's in the same breath as Roman Anthony, but he's an organization that people like to buy. So he's someone that I had Kalaz over him because he already has the power that we all know about, but I flipped him because I trust the organization a little bit more, and I really do like that hit tool. Now we're going to go back to the draftees for number 12, and Yandy Morales of the Nationals. He was drafted in the second round, but he went above slot for $2.6 million. You see 6'4", 225 pounds. The projected grades are going to be 40 hit, 60 game power, 65 raw power, 40 speed, 55 fielding, and a future value of 45 plus. Another guy with big power potential. Like his teammate Brady House, he's another guy who feels too big for shortstop and will probably have to move to third. So I'm interested to see what they do long-term with those two, but the bat plays anywhere. I would say the most encouraging sign so far from Morales has been the hit tool. Everyone knew the power coming out of Miami, but there were huge hit tool concerns, a lot of swing and miss, way too aggressive. But if you look at what he's done so far, he made 4 stops in his first season, from complex to A to high A to double A. He didn't post a K rate above 20 anywhere. So when he was drafted, I'm thinking, this is a 250 hitter in the minors with just like a bunch of pop. Instead, he comes out, he bats 309 in A ball, 314 in high A, doesn't hit a home run. It's obvious to me that they're working on plate discipline, and it seems to be working. I've said this in the past with guys like Roman Anthony. if you see these guys and you know that they have good raw power and they're not hitting home runs, look at the other metrics. If you can look at their chase rate and their walk to strikeout ratio and you see that those are good, it could just be that they're working on pitch selection. I think that this could be true for Morales. And if the Nationals have gotten him to be less aggressive this early on in his development, when they let him loose, those power numbers could fly up. I really like what I've seen so far for someone who's projected 40 hit tool. All of the the K numbers and the average, everything seems to be a lot better than it was expected to be. If he comes out this year and those home run numbers start taking off like they did in college, and that power is as real as we already know that it is, he's someone who's going to fly up prospect boards for sure. 11th overall, we have our second Astros prospect in the top 20 in Luis Baez. You see he's 6'1", 205 pounds, 45 hit, 60 game power, 60 raw power, 40 speed, 50 fielding, and a future value of 40 plus. I like Baez. We did a podcast episode called The Crystal Ball, where we tried to pick one prospect from each team who will be an MLB.com top 100 prospect at the start of 2026. Luis Baez was my Astros pick. You see good DSL numbers 2 years ago. And last year, the Astros really got a short look at him in the complex before promoting him to A. There's big power potential here. He just turned 20, but the power he showed as a teenager was great. He had a 52% hard hit rate in the Dominican Summer League. The one downside I will say is he moved really well on the base paths and in center field when he was in the Dominican Summer League. And then last year, he looked about 20 pounds heavier, didn't steal bases, looked more like a right fielder. But the power is 30-plus home run potential in the bigs. He already has 2 this season. I don't have this season stats because they just started a couple days ago. Already has 2 home runs in high A this year. Like I said, that's 30-plus home run potential in the MLB, I think. He's a little chase-prone, and now that he doesn't move as well, his speed is kind of capped. But I think the power carries here. I actually think he's got a similar profile as far as average and home run potential as Yandy Morales, but he's 2 years younger, which make his cards a better buy. They probably have more potential to go up. He has about 2 to 3 more years to gain buzz, whereas Yandy, if he comes out and he starts hitting home runs, maybe he gets called up. You don't have nearly as much time to sit on those cards and make money. If Luis Baez comes out this year and he's showing, 30 home run in the minor potential, these cards should go crazy. I think that it just, not that I trust him more than Morales, but I think because of the age, I think the cards do have more potential to go up. I wish he would, he had kept that speed, because like I said, he looked like he was a good power speed combo in the DSL, but he's really put on some weight. But his shoulders, I mean, he's just, if you see him in person, he's just not built like a 20-year-old. He's, not Yordan Alvarez, but you look at these other guys on the Astros who you just, when they come up to the plate, you're just like, they're physically imposing. Luis Baez has a potential to be one of those guys as he gets older. I think that the power is real, and I think that it probably carries him in the hobby. Number 10 is going to be Sebastian Walcott of the Rangers. 6'4", 190 pounds. You see the projected tools of 30 hit, 70 game power, 80 raw power, 50 speed, 50 fielding, and 50 future value. You see the asterisk? It's because his auto will not have a first designation, very similar to the Jackson Merrill and the Brady House. And in the Bowman world, that's kind of a death sentence. If this was a true first auto, he's probably the number 2 or 3 chase in this product. But I think his hype is so high that even with a non-first auto, which collectors tend to despise, he's still a borderline top 10 chase for me. Huge strikeout concerns. Huge. But we're talking about 70 to 80 grade power on a 6'4" shortstop who moves really well for his size. His ceiling is insane. This is more so a buzz buy. I tend to stay away from guys who I know are going to strike out a ton. But I also have enough Bowman collectors on my feed to know that a lot of people are after this guy's cards. I can tell you, though, as someone who bought non-first autos of Jackson Merrill, I can tell you that the amount that they went up in value when he made the roster was almost nothing compared to guys with true first autos who will see their cards, double when they get called up unexpectedly. So long-term, I'm worried about the value of this card with it being a non-first auto, but he's so young and has such insane hype that you probably still have 3 years of his name gaining steam before you can dump it off. I'm interested to see where he'll be priced, but this is about where I have him, all things considered, taking into consideration it's not a first auto, but the hype here is just insane. Ninth, we're going to go with a guy I really like as a player, and that's Kyle Teal of the Red Sox, first-round pick, 14th overall. He signed for $4 million, 6'1", 190-pound catcher. You see the projected tools of 55 hit, 45 game power, 55 raw power, 45 speed, 50 fielding, 50 future value. Now, I say I love him as a player because he's been crazy productive. If you look at the stats, the WRC plus at each stop, 246, 166, 167. Pretty ridiculous start to his pro career. And he plays for a team in the Red Sox whose players are usually pretty collectible, like I said with Cespedes. So why is he ninth? Couple of reasons for me. He's a college catcher. College bats don't have the same hype as high school bats, as we all know. Catcher is also an extremely unloved position in the hobby. And for being an athletic catcher, there's actually no guarantee he sticks there. So he originally split time between catcher and outfield at Virginia. But the Red Sox will keep him at catcher for now. He's got a really strong arm, but he's still kind of awkward behind the plate. I can tell you I watched their debut yesterday, and the Double-A Rockies team went 5 for 5 on stolen bases against him. So I love him as a player. I like the organization. I like the athleticism for a catcher. I just don't know that anything screams that he'll be a hyped player in the hobby. Again, college catcher. The power's average, the speed's below average. So he's a catcher who might be good defensively, who hits for good average and just has okay pop. I'm not sure what the hobby ceiling is. He's way more of a good in real life baseball player than good in the eyes of, the Bowman snobs that we'll call him. That being said, all the things I said I like about him are great, and his production last year was just so good that I think it warrants him being in the top 10. 8th overall, we have an interesting one here. I'm going to go with Walker Martin of the Giants, who they pulled away from an Arkansas commitment with a $3 million signing bonus. He is a 6'2", 188-pound shortstop, and you'll see that he has no scout grades on Fangraphs. On my original rankings, when the checklist dropped, I had him at 5 overall because there is a lot to love. He was a high school quarterback that won 3 consecutive state titles in the state of Colorado. If you followed me in the past, you know that I'm a sucker for two-sport athletes. Lonnie White, more recently Colin Hawk from last year. The reason I love them is because these super athletic kids have never focused on one sport year-round before. Now they are with professional training, and it creates a huge ceiling. But the thing is, I like those guys because they come into the minors at 18 and have time to develop their athleticism into being a good baseball player. Walker Martin just turned 20 and hasn't played a game yet. It's a big pause for me. Don't get me wrong, the ceiling's huge. If you go off like prospect rankings alone, even my prospect rankings, he would be a top 5 chase. And I won't be surprised at all if that's where he's priced. There's legit 25-plus home run and stolen base potential. Crazy power-speed combo for a high school bat. Investing in that kind of power-speed combo is a Bowman no-brainer. But I'm not positive how polished he'll be or how long it might take the Giants to develop him so that the athleticism translates on the field. So again, huge upside with Martin. He checks all of the boxes I like. Being 20 before registering a pro AB when baseball hasn't ever been your only sport, it's enough pause for me to slide him back a couple. Again, won't be surprised at all if he's someone who just goes crazy when he starts playing this year and his card prices go insane. But for right now, because of the age and because I haven't seen it yet, I had to move him back a couple spots. And at number 7, here's someone that I expect to be an expensive chase in this product, and that's George Lombard Jr. of the Yankees, who is another $3 million signing bonus. 6'3", 190-pound shortstop for the Yankees. You see the projected tools of 55 hit, 50 game power, 55 raw power, 50 speed, 55 fielding, and a future value of 45 plus. Good bloodline here. His dad had offers from Georgia to play running back before being drafted by the Braves in the second round. So certainly some athleticism in the family there. When you look at the scout grades, nothing wows you, but just a really solid player. Anytime you get a young first-round pick who plays a premium position on an organization like the Yankees, you can guarantee that these cards are going to sell. The funny thing is, I want to use Volpe as the example of a first-round pick shortstop for the Yankees, whose cards sell. And it's actually a really similar profile currently. Volpe had almost identical scout grades when he was this age. He was just about average to above average at pretty much all facets. The Yankees did a really good job at developing him into more power. When you look at the 6'3 Lombard, the dream is that they can unlock more power in there because he's a smooth defender. He moves pretty well, good control of the zone. On any other franchise, he could probably really be a sleeper since none of the grades are projected to wow you. But I think because of the athleticism and size, he could have sneaky power potential. But he's not sneaky because he's a Yankee. So much like Volpe, I'll probably never own a card of his because the price is going to blow up so fast. But he's a great young player, and I definitely expect him to be in the top 5-ish range for prices on release. He doesn't do anything to hurt you. I think that there's a lot of upside here, and you definitely can't go wrong on a guy like this, especially in the organization that he plays for. Here's a fun one. I'm not sure how many people will have Cooper Pratt ahead of George Lombard and Walker Martin in their rankings. I hope none, because I like to be the contrarian, but here we go. Number 6, we're going to go Cooper Pratt. He was a 6th-round pick last year, but he went about 4 times over slot, getting a signing bonus of $1.35 million. He's a Mississippi kid. It was going to go to Ole Miss before the Brewers snagged him. 6'4", 195 pounds. You see the scout grades of 50 hit, 50 game power, 50 raw power, 40 speed, 45 fielding, and a future value of 40 plus. He is 6'4", so him moving from shortstop to third base surely is not out of the question, but he's a good athlete for his size. He's got really fast hands. One of the things that I was looking for before I ranked him was his pro debut. There doesn't seem to be any hit tool concerns, as you see. Pretty good 45 AB sample, batted 356 last year. He's batting 364 this year through his first 15 plate appearances. Again, small samples, but encouraging to see the hit tool looking as good as it does. The scary thing is he hasn't even shown any power yet, which we're almost certain that he can grow into given his frame. You see Fangraphs projected at 50. I think it could get bigger. It's been mostly gap power so far, but because he has shown such quick hands and good awareness of the zone early in his pro career, that really helps his ranking to me. A lot of guys, we're waiting for them to grow into more power, but their contact is bad. So you got to fight through these growing pains. As long as Pratt continues to hit for average, I think we can wait for that power to arrive. He'll be just fine. I don't think he'll end up with quite as much power, but I think the ceiling, as far as you look at the size and the position he plays and the understanding of the zone, he's got a kind of similar build to like a right-handed Gunnar Henderson, to give you like an idea. Again, I don't know that he ever grows into Gunnar Henderson's power, but with the 6'4", 195-pound frame at his age, we can certainly hope it's there. And again, the contact's been good enough, the hit tool's been good enough that you can definitely sit on these cards. And you see that speed rating, 8.7. He's moving really well for a guy his size. So if he's hitting well and he's running well, and you have a chance to kind of sit there and wait for that body to develop and more power to come, I think he's someone who could easily be a top 100 prospect by next year, depending on how this season goes, and he's just really under the radar. All right, going back-to-back on the Milwaukee Brewers here with their first-round pick, Brock Wilken at number 5, 6'4", 225-pound third baseman. You see the projected tools of 40 hit, 70 game power, 70 raw power, 40 speed, 40 fielding, and a future value of 45 plus. I mentioned Pratt may have to move off of shortstop, but I think they'll try to keep him there as this guy likely holds down third base in the long term. I don't tend to chase college bats like I do high school ones, but we know the hobby's favorite carrying tool is power, and this guy certainly has it. You see the projected raw and game power grades of 70. Not a mistake. Wilken played 3 seasons at Wake Forest where he hit 71 home runs, which is an ACC record. The big question here is going to be the hit tool. His sophomore year at Wake, he batted 272. had 34 walks to 71 strikeouts. But then his junior year, he batted .345, 69 walks to 58 strikeouts. Is the improvement in approach real? Because if so, this is a special bat. We haven't seen a ton in pro ball, but 34 games in high A last year, you see the 289 average. We look down at the walks and strikeouts, 27 walks to 32 Ks. You love to see the walks almost match the strikeouts, considering how strikeout prone he was his first 2 years in college. So here we're hoping that the improvements he's made to the approach are real. Forget waiting to see if the power will come. It's here, and it's definitely for real. We're talking 35-plus home run potential in the MLB on a guy who'll probably be up by next season. He's someone who could be really fun to watch this year, and I think that you can't go wrong with that 70 power. I mean, anytime you can get that out of a guy and hold his cards. Again, you're hoping for the hit tool, but with how good he improved that approach his last year at Wake and how good it looked in, that 150 plate appearance sample last year, I think there's reason to believe that he's someone who could be, a top 25-ish prospect by next year. Wouldn't surprise me at all. All right. 4th overall on the Chase rankings, I will go with Aiden Miller of the Philadelphia Phillies. Yet another $3 million signing bonus. Taken 27th overall in last year's draft. He might have slipped a little due to a broken bone in his hand, but the Phillies were glad to scoop him up. You see he's 6'2", 205 pounds, plays shortstop. Projected tools of 40 hit, 55 game power, 70 raw power, 40 speed, 50 fielding, and a future value of 45. He's got some of the fastest hands and best raw power of any high school bat in the draft class. I'm not positive he'll stick at shortstop, but the Phillies will at least give him a shot there to start out. The concern here is going to be the hit tool. He did have an encouraging debut last year, especially when you get under the walk rates. You see down there 16.7% in the complex league, 13.6% in A-ball. You love to see a kid come in at his age and be able to work counts and see enough pitches without chasing to keep those walk rates, a good amount above 10%. But there are certainly K concerns. Nothing staggering yet, but as he continues to move up and face upper-level pitching, there are concerns that he may need a swing tweak. But when we're buying Bowman, we can also buy and sell hype. I think there's a better chance his hype blows up this year than it falls off a cliff. Like I said, he's already in many people's top 100 prospects. He was in my top 100 prospects. You just don't get this kind of easy power from kids his age. I do still have hit tool questions, but I think there's a chance that we've got a year or two until they become worrisome. So for people who like to buy and sell hype, this is a good target. The hype should really climb up this year. Premium position, good fan base, great power. He should really be a collectible name, and it won't surprise me at all if he's a top 3 chase for a lot of people in this product. Now we get to probably the coolest story in the 2023 MLB draft, and Arjun Nimmala, who comes in at number 3 for me. 6'1", 170-pound shortstop. You see the projected grades of 40 hit, 65 game power, 70 raw power, 40 speed, 50 fielding, and a future value of 45 plus. Now, Nimmala was the first-generation Indian American to be drafted in the first round in any of the 4 major sports. Not only is that an awesome story, I don't think people realize yet what that does to a player's collectability. I don't know if you remember, but in 2021 draft, there was a period of time where Jacob Steinmetz first Bowman cards were flying off the shelf. I remember getting notifications on eBay that mine had sold, and I was like, why? Come to find out, he was the first practicing Orthodox Jewish player to ever be drafted. This stuff really grows the audience of who wants to collect your cards. And fun fact, there are about 2 million people of Indian origin in Canada. So I think that, this checks all the boxes on he's going to have just an insane amount of people who are rooting for him, people who might not even be baseball fans. Like I said, cricket's a big sport in India. You don't see Indian baseball players. He could bring in just this whole new crop of people who are watching the sport because they're rooting for him. I think that this is does huge numbers to his cards. But we'll get on to him himself. He was the youngest in the class at age 17. He's going to be 18 all of this year in A-ball. He's not going to turn 19 until October. huge card boost being the youngest. Projected 70 power, huge card boost. Like I said, with Aiden Miller, the hit tool is a concern. He just hit his first pro home run the other day, but he also struck out in about half of his plate appearances so far this year. Tiny sample, but he's so young, you got to hold out hope that the Blue Jays can address his swing decisions, because the power is going to be no question. The Blue Jays are a team who the current face of their prospects is Ricky Tiedemann. Once he graduates, it's probably Arjun Amala. You're going to see him everywhere. I think with his story, how cool it is, the franchise he plays for, his power potential, his age. I mean, check the boxes on being a monster card chase. I don't think that there's a price that his autos could be on release that would be high enough to surprise me. This guy's going to be a hobby monster. All right, let's get controversial. I expect this to be most people's number one chase. If there's a bounty in this product, it will likely be on Dylan Cruz, but he is my number 2. 6 foot, 203 pound outfielder. You see the projected grades of 50 hit, 60 game power, 60 raw power, 60 speed, 55 fielding, and a future value of 60. Now, he is my number 2, and it's nothing against him at all. It just has to do with how much I like the number 1 guy. But Cruz is a no-brainer chase here. Anyone who watched college baseball saw the insane run he went on at LSU. You couldn't get the guy out. He's got plus power, plus speed. The hit tool doesn't hurt you. He's going to be a great pro. And honestly, in almost everyone's prospect rankings, I think he's actually extremely undervalued at the moment. Only because people have such an unrealistic expectation of how quickly college bats drafted highly should move in the organizations. We saw the meteoric rise of Wyatt Langford, and it almost caused a small downgrade for people on Cruz because he wasn't doing that. And everyone's like, oh, well, Wyatt Langford, he's better than Dylan Cruz, I don't think that that's fair. He still got drafted higher. He was still a better college player. They played in the same conference. He had a 567 OBP as last year at LSU. I mean, that's insane. I like him. His on-base streak in college was crazy. He does everything well. He plays for a team that honestly has no reason not to bring him up if he's performing well in AA and AAA. I expect him to be a huge chase. He deserves it. He's probably the number 1 chase for most people. It's really hard to weigh where college bats will be priced versus high school bats, but I did do a price sheet 1 week after the release of 23 Bowman draft, where Wyatt Langford, right before he had blown up, and Max Clark, their autos were doing around the same numbers. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's the case in this release as well. So while I do love Dylan Cruz, and I actually think he's underrated as a prospect in general because of people's unfair expectations of him so far, I'm going to take the other guy at number 1. And that guy is Walker Jenkins of the Minnesota Twins. You'll see 6'3", 210 pounds. Projected tools of 55 hit, 60 game power, 60 raw power, 40 speed, 50 fielding, and a future value of 55. Jenkins was the 5th overall pick, and he got a nice $7 million signing bonus. This kid could be special. I'm a touch biased. He plays for the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles, which is down the street for me, so I did get some good looks at him last year after his promotion, and the kid looks legit. You would not believe seeing him in person that he had just come out of high school. He is a monster. You see 6'3", 210. You can't even really put it into perspective until you see him in person. Beautiful left-handed swing. The thing that makes me like Jenkins so much is almost always with a high school pick, it's one of the tools is some sort of project. Like I said earlier with Aiden Miller and Arjun Amala, it's we got to work on their hit tools. We got to get them to stop chasing. We got to watch these strikeout rates. And then you get the other guys, Lombard, Cooper Pratt, Max Clark, who was in the last product. We want to wait to see how much power shows up. We like the hit tool, but let's wait to see if he's, powerful enough for his cards to really, skyrocket. Don't have to be patient here. There's nothing to wait for. He legit has the potential for a plus hit tool and plus power. He controls the zone really well. He's really patient. He doesn't swing and miss. As you can see, 56 plate appearances after being called up to A last year, 10.7 strikeout rate. And then you look right next to that and you see a 216 ISO. It's just a crazy combo. To come out of high school and not only be that big and physical, but also have that good of an understanding of the zone and being selective on what pitches you want to swing at. He's just so good. He's already a top 15 prospect for me. I will say there's probably only a handful of guys, maybe 5 prospects in all of baseball that I think have the potential to be the number 1 overall prospect. Walker Jenkins is on that list. Again, currently today, Dylan Cruz is a higher rated prospect for me, no doubt. But with Walker Jenkins cards, not only do you have someone I think could be number 1 overall in a few years, you have someone who has a few years to have his hype go up even higher than it already is. I think the ceiling on this kid is huge, and regardless of price, if you're making me choose tomorrow between an auto of his or Dylan Cruz, even though I have Dylan Cruz as a higher rated prospect, give me the Walker Jenkins card. I really like this kid. Now I'll go through some honorable mentions, pretty much 25 through 21. You got Jared Sarna of the Yankees. Aiden Smith, he's sneaky. If you follow Chris Clegg from Dynasty Dugout, I have a lot of respect for him. He kind of called him as this year's Roman Anthony. He's someone who's like a good athlete, good power. Questions about the hit tool, going to strike out a lot, but he's a fun, under-the-radar chase. George Wilkow of the White Sox, another fun one, 6'7" at age 18. Potential 80 power, but the hit tool could be really bad. We don't really know yet, but he's another fun one. And then you see we got Gino Groover of the Arizona Diamondbacks, another great hitter. I won't be surprised at all if he's on most people's top 20 for chases. He kind of falls into that Justin Henry Malloy profile. And people will tell you that defense doesn't matter in the hobby, but Justin Henry Malloy has been in AAA for about a year and a half with a 400 OBP and can't make it to the show. So Gino Groover moves down a little bit for that reason to me. He's a good bat. He can't play defense. A little bit questionable on where you fit him. Augustin Ramirez, catching prospect for the Yankees, barely missed for me. Another good one. I own him in both Dynasty Leagues I'm in. 2 home runs already to start this season this past week. Great player to keep an eye on. And that's pretty much going to do it for 2024 Bowman. Overall, I love the checklist. I don't even need to see the 2024 Bowman Chrome or Bowman Draft checklist to know that this one will probably be my favorite checklist of the year. Just like 2023 Bowman was my favorite checklist of that year. You just can't beat it. In this release, you have 5 prep high school, prep bats that got $3+ million signing bonuses. You have 4 first-round college bats. You got 4 or 5 high upside international signings. I mean, they really stack it. It seems to be a theme. 2023 with Bowman was the same way. Just the way they blend the draft holdouts and international signings, it's really good. To me, this is already a better checklist than 2023 Bowman draft. So you think that the price might be crazy, but it's still going for cheaper than that. I would rather hold this product if I had the choice. It's something I will be opening because, like I said, there's 20 to 25 guys here that I think are fun holds if you pull their cards. But yeah, looking forward to May 8th. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at BigBobsCards.